folks, Hale over here with another construction video. This takes us from very early fall into now as far as working on our house. So the chickens got to come back outside because we were done with all the digging holes and running tracked machinery around that would squish chickens, and the foam walls were all covered up so they could not eat them. So they were excited about that. You can see us working here on putting up a little fence barrier around the house for the winter. That is to keep chicken claws and dog toenails from scratching any holes in our tarp that is protecting the floor until spring. And then this fence will come down in the spring, but it's just kind of protecting everything for the winter. You can see, use the same deer netting that I used for many years up in the clearing. Just made a perimeter around there and kept them from scooching under the bottom by using some of our rocks that we clearly have no shortage of here after digging this hole to keep them from getting under there. The cats, however, thought this was an absolute blast to play with, this new constructed fence edge. After we got all these steps done, we actually had a sunny, pleasant day to sit in our living room and admire the view and make plans for the future, which was kind of fun. Then we started a project that we hadn't necessarily been planning to do, but turned out that we needed with not having a house on top of our floor this winter. We were starting to get sweating on the bottom inside of the floor because of the temperature differential with the cold air outside. And we were very blessed that about the same time that we realized that we were going to need to insulate the floor, a family member was able to acquire this entire pallet of styrofoam that was being discarded and put in a landfill, brand new off a construction site, and it was gifted to us. And so we were able to use it to do this next step.
I am in the process. This is going in between the 16-inch centers on the TJIs, and they have to fit. So to break the thermal barrier, these will go up inside. So let's see, how would I show that? Like a little piece here. So if you had a little piece like that, and that's the floor being on there, this would go in between like that, but I have to make a notch here in order for that to end up on the floor surface. By doing that, I break the thermal barrier between the plywood floor and the insulation. And I can demonstrate that a little bit better here. So if you can imagine the plywood floor, this is the deck that you would be walking on inside the house. You want that insulation to be right up underneath that deck like that, and then it won't sweat, and you don't get moisture problems. It just breaks that thermal zone. So right now we've got cold up here. We've got a tarp on there, and the idea is you know, that cold is trying to transfer through, but we're breaking that. So the moist air that's in the crawl space or the root cellar, it will come up and hit the bottom of the insulation, but it won't be cold, so it won't condense. Okay, this will always remain, you know, the temperature of what's inside the room. So if you can imagine this, now this is going to be, this would be the floor side here. These are your joists. So we've now sealed, so this would be your subfloor from underneath, and the cellar's down here. And so by notching this out like this, that's going to allow, you know, again, to seal that entire space, and it should be absolutely a thing of beauty.
As you can probably imagine, this became a very long and tedious process, and though you're watching it in about a half hour, this is a bit of a summary of quite a few weeks of work, again, largely on Clay's part, while I did other things to just keep daily life going and all that stuff. But anyway, this very detailed cutting and trimming of every single piece to fit into every single corner was quite a large project, and one that I know he is very glad to have done now.
Question is, can I get them in there? Yeah, I can do that, but that goes up there like that. Goes all the way over to the wall. And it suddenly gets tight. Interesting. Get tighter here. I certainly don't want those any more narrow or any wider. But that's what you end up with. It's pretty slick, right?
It is. You can hear when it's tight.
Huh?
You can hear when it's tight.
Oh boy. Yeah. See where anywhere it's loose, I can just pop a nail in there or something.
So as you're working down here in the cellar, what's this thing?
This here?
Yeah, out there.
That's my bathroom.
Oh, tell me how it works.
Well, it's charcoal, and you know, it absorbs. There's no smell at all. I mean, it absorbs all the odor, and then it makes great biocharcoal later. But I just pee in that. You know, I'm down here by myself, so that's my bathroom, and it works great.
So if you ever have a cellar, just put a charcoal bucket in, you'll have a urinal.
Yeah, on construction sites they ought to have more of this kind of stuff, except it would never fly. But anyway.
But it works really well. I vouch for there's no odor at all.
No, but that's what it is.
Remember I said chickens eat styrofoam? That's what you're looking at here. This was one of the edges of a piece before I realized that chickens eat styrofoam that they had just eaten clean away. You got left to do?
How many days?
Bays.
Oh, bays. I got 4 bays left. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can count too. Look at that. Yeah, 4 main bays, and then of course we got all the edges. But yeah. Anyway, it's coming.
We haven't seen what you've been doing since you put in like the first 1 or 2. Tell me what system you've got going here.
Well, I don't have any more pieces to put up, so I can't show you. I gotta go make some more.
Okay, I'll have to bring the camera back.
Yeah.
And here you can see what it looked like when the floor was half done-ish from underneath. You have no doubt at all where the floor is insulated versus not on a cold, frosty morning. Now the whole thing is finished as you're watching this video, but that clip was from when it was partially done, showing the clear difference. Okay, so now that you've done pretty close to the entire ceiling, you've got a real system going here.
Yeah, you see how this is notched out? Mm-hmm. This goes around the TJI. This piece right here, if you look up in there at the top, in order to get it to seat on the deck, you have to make that notch, which required a lot more time and effort, but we did. And then I take these little foam blocks, and I don't have to hang on to it, and stick them in there like that, just to get it started. And the reason I'm doing foam blocks like this is so in the event I need to do something when the house is under construction, I can pop a panel out if I need to, but right now I need to keep it right up tight to the deck through the winter. For the most part, it stays mostly up there all by itself. Anyway, they're tight enough that they don't always want to just go in there. Not without a little encouragement. And you see that? They're cut just snug.
It might be hard to see, but that end wall facing us is insulated as well now.
Yeah, that's the rim board. So, and then I give it just a little thumb tap here to make sure it's tight up against the insulation that's in the rim board. You can see it better with the vent. Show them the vent. You can see it looks like a porthole in a ship, but that's the vent to the outside, and you can see the blue board there. That makes sense?
It does.
Right.
You're down to these last 3 bays to do.
And this one, the same process. Punch it up there, nice and tight. One on the splice. I cut those just slightly bigger so they compress in there. And the idea is you want to have the styrofoam as tight to the deck as you can to break that thermal barrier. Otherwise,
To make a thermal barrier, otherwise you have a thermal bridge.
right. And well, I think I'm confused by it, but I know what it's supposed to do. Okay, it breaks that so that when the warmer air down here was hitting that deck, when it would get to 20 degrees outside, it would condense and it would drip. And so to prevent that, you put this thermal barrier here, and it now hits the styrofoam, and it's the same temperature as the room in here, and so it never sweats. That's why we're doing all it. A lot of work just to prevent that. This last one, put it back away from the edge. There's a block here, but there's a space right here of 1 inch on each side of that block. So I hold this one back from the edge so that the air can move through there, and it works really well. We haven't got any problems either.
Because that air is moving side to side in the cellar,
Yeah.
not up into the floor above.
Correct. And there's actually, when this is done, we should have a solid 2-inch foam barrier all the way, throughout the entire deck. The rim board, there should be a solid barrier anywhere you go on the house. So, and this will benefit us later down the road. Right now it's getting us out of a pickle because of the condensation problem, but it'll make it a lot nicer once the house is done as well. So we can keep this a little cooler, and then the floor in the house will be more room temperature because of this blue board foam. So.
And the vents, right now people can see anywhere the light's kind of coming in, there's a vent.
Yeah.
And they're open right now while you're working down here. But how will they work in the long run? So
you'll have to manage the vents. And when I say manage, you have to kind of figure out for this particular space what is going to happen. So we could close all of them, and instantly you would have a massive amount of humidity in here within hours. So what we would try to do to where it's right on the cusp. We like having a little moisture in here, but it's right on the edge. So the first thing I'll do is I'll close one vent on either side. And then if it still stays cool enough, then I'll close two, and there'll only be one vent, and I would probably go diagonally, leave one over here open and one over here open, just to keep a little bit of air moving. And then if it's still plenty, we can even reduce it more. But if we have a situation where suddenly we have high humidity, and in the springtime that could happen, if that happens, then we just open them all up, and if it's still not enough, in worst case scenario, we would actually add a fan to blow the air more rapidly through. You could get all the damp moisture out of the air within minutes if you open up the vent.
But they will also manage temperature, so they'll be open or closed differently depending whether it's July or January.
Yeah.
As well.
But this ground, what we're finding is it's staying right at, right now it's 63 on the floor and 57. Last night, 63 temperature, 57 humidity. When we first started this, the humidity was 100%. Several of them were completely maxed out. So we've solved that problem with opening it up. But last night it was 26 degrees outside, up just above this ceiling, and down here stayed right at 54, 55 degrees. So the ground temperature, for whatever reason, and this may change because we're supposed to have a 42 degree ground temperature, but that has not held true so far. It stayed, even though it was in the 20s last night, this all night long stayed in, right at, the 54 degree range. So.
But that may be because we sank so much heat into the ground for months this summer with this hole wide open to the sun. It has been an unusually hot summer. Somebody did ask, why didn't we just pour concrete down here on the floor? This would make it drier and all of that. Why don't we have concrete here on the floor?
Well, number one,
other than right there where you can see that the footer is supporting the wall. But
that's the footer.
But everything else you're looking at here on the floor is some clean gravel on top of the natural material, which we could call dirt. But as you saw, if you watched us dig this, it's pretty much all rock.
If we'd have poured the concrete slab, then one thing that would have happened for sure is we wouldn't have been able to get any moisture down here. So it would have been it'd be cool, but Ariel wanted to have a little damper environment, but not to the point where everything is sweating. We can't have that. Even if you had canned goods down here, you can't have that because it'd rust out the lids on the canning jars. So.
But the goal is we actually wanted this floor to influence the temperature and humidity. We wanted the earth below to influence this because this cellar, in addition to being the cellar of the house, is intended to store food.
Without a slab being here, we should end up with whatever the natural ground temperature is And this floor is not bad, you know, I mean, it's actually very nice.
Well, show them the dust right now, actually, despite the fact that there's some humidity that comes through it. I don't know if the camera will...
I don't know.
No, it's...
Can you pick it up? You can sure see
there I can.
a lot of dust. And you can see how the air's moving through here. It's drawing through the vent, and you can see it blowing sideways.
So it's not like the floor is wet. When we say there was high humidity in here, it's not like there's wet or puddles.
But it does come up. The way you know that is to take a board. If I pick up a board, if I lay a board flat on the surface on this ground, it'll be soaking wet when I go to pick it up.
On the bottom side.
On the bottom side. So there is moisture coming out of the ground, but you know, the whole thing is, this is a trial and error event. You know, we want to, you know, determine what works best in our situation, and we're going to change stuff as we go. But right now, this works for us, and you know, it's kind of a fun experiment either way. I'm not sure anybody's actually... I mean, everybody has different ideas, no doubt. And, you know, we've looked at a lot of different ones, but we have slightly different scenario. Number one, our region where we're at. Number two, we use the foam block. A lot of people have just concrete walls, and we've got this super insulated foam. There's 6 inches of insulation there, inside and out. You know, there's 3 inside, 3 outside, and so,
on the wall itself.
Yeah, so you're not getting really any you know, changes up or down or otherwise on the walls already, which is kind of unique. Most cellars are just concrete walls; they have nothing on them, and so we're relying on everything we get from the gravel floor to regulate what we want to do here in the cellar. And hopefully at some point we'll take a section in this cellar and make it a lot more moist. So if you wanted to store apples or, you know, something like that that required a moist environment, whether it be apples or potatoes, we already have a root cellar for the potatoes, but if we wanted to, you know, with apples, you don't want them in the same room with anything else because of the gas they put off, and then they'll rot everything. So we could do a section in here that was a root cellar as well, that was high humidity, bring it up to, you know, 85, 95% humidity, and they'll keep really well. So, but we haven't decided yet what we're going to do.
And that's another difference with our climate, because a lot of people live in places where it is 80% humidity in their air. Here, all our thermometers outside are reading somewhere between 10% and 0, because most of them can't read as low as our humidity actually is. Yeah. So we wanted the open to the earth floor because we wanted to be able to gather some humidity.
It's the only way we can regulate it. If we get too much, we can open the vents and vent it out. So, but you have to have the input somewhere, and the input right now for humidity is coming from the gravel floor. And again, if we sealed it with a concrete slab, then all we've got is a bunker at that point.
Okay, I will turn the camera off and let Clay finish his last few big pieces here, and then he's got a whole bunch of little fiddly pieces that I probably won't bother filming because they're going to be frustrating, because while this is all nice and sealed now, there's this fun edge. I don't know if the camera can even see up inside, but there's a hole up in there, right into here. That's going to be the really fun part to get done. Several weeks later, this is all looking good. That tail you see there is to the thermometer that we can read from outside the building when we're not down in here. And it got down to 40 degrees. As the lowest temperature we've seen. It was 0 outside, and that's with all these vents, all 6 of them currently open. This amount that you can see there. So what Clay's doing is closing down some of the vents. Closing down some of the vents, which makes it dark in here and hard off for the camera, so that they will look more like this. I don't know if you can easily see it. That's just like a 1/4 inch gap of air still circulating. And we'll find out if that is enough to keep everything good in here but not get too cold. And now this is what the weather looks like, so you probably won't be seeing any more construction videos on this project until spring.
Thank you everyone for watching. It means a lot, and I hope you learned something along the way.
If you know somebody else who would enjoy this as well, share it with them.